All right, today we're going to be talking about building bidirectional underwater kicking skills, and the strategies we're going to use are vertical kicking both forward and backwards, and we'll use those strategies to emphasize either the kick in front of the body or kick behind the body. So there are two key skills in underwater kicking that we're going to discuss and address, and the first is swimmers need to learn to kick through the center line. And so you can see this image here. The swimmer has kicked their feet well in front of the torso, and that's going to maximize the effectiveness of each kick. The second skill they need to learn is they need to maintain foot speed and range of motion of the kick behind the body. And that's where a lot of swimmers really struggle. They really are lackadaisical in terms of the kick recovery. It's slow, it's sloppy, it's not effective. And that's a problem because this skill, almost more than any other one, has been associated with really fast underwater dolphin kickers, both in the research and when you watch swimmers and you watch the top level underwater kickers, they're really fast, kicking in both directions, and they use an effective range of motion in both directions. So those are the two key skills. So those are two of the key skills that we need to work on in order to improve swimmers' ability to kick fast underwater. The challenges of improving these skills. First of all, swimmers really understand what's required. It's a difficult concept. They don't know what it feels like, and that makes it difficult for them to do it. In terms of kicking in front of the body, what they tend to do is they tend to kick from the knees, and there's no follow through all the way through the kick, and there's no timing of the kick. So that leads to a kick that's pretty ineffective in terms of creating propulsion, and that's obviously not going to help swimmers go fast. And in terms of kicking behind the body, they really bend the knees in order to get the feet back, and that's not going to set them up for an effective kick forward in front of the body. And more than anything else, it's just slow. They tend to recover the feet really slowly. They tend to recover the legs really slowly, and that just really prevents them from being effective with their entire kick because everything is just happening slower than it needs to. The issue is that they don't really understand what it's supposed to feel like, and so if they can't feel it, they're not going to be able to do it, and explanations can be ineffective because they have to be put in a position where they can feel it in order to really get it. So that's what we have to do. We have to put them in positions where they can feel it. Once they can feel it, they can get it, they can train it, and they'll improve. So one of the strategies I find really effective for teaching both of these skills is have swimmers move when they're vertical kicking. What I like about it is they either do it or they don't. And in order to move forward, they have to be effective at kicking backward behind the body. And in order to move backward, they have to be effective at kicking in front of the body. So it really forces them to do the skill correctly, and they get really concrete and a clear and immediate feedback as to whether they're doing it effectively or not. So he's got to be good kicking behind his body to make forward progress. And he's got to be good kicking in front of his body in order to make backward progress. Simple, but really effective at helping swimmers feel these key skills. So again, they have to exaggerate one of the kicks in order to move forwards, because if they're kicking equally in both directions, or they're kicking equally ineffectively in both directions, they're not going to go anywhere. So they have to exaggerate. They want to go forward, they got to kick behind. They want to go backwards, they got to kick in front. And so when you're training these, you can either choose to develop both equally by doing an equal amount of both forward and backwards. If you find that one of the kicks is particularly weak, you can emphasize that kick by doing more of one of the two vertical kicking options. So again, most swimmers are going to struggle to kick through the center line. So by having them kick backwards, it forces them to kick all the way through so that they can move backwards. And also, most swimmers are going to struggle to kick behind the body effectively. If they don't do it quickly, if they don't do it effectively, they won't be able to move forward. And a key thing when doing this drill is that you got to make sure that they stay relatively vertical. If they start really bending over or really leaning back, it's going to make it a lot easier. And so you want them to be pretty vertical. It's okay if they lean a little bit, but the more vertical they are, the more effective it's going to be. And again, it's not so much that they need to move quickly through the water. They just need to be able to move forward. And if they're holding a really good posture, it's actually going to slow them down more, but they'll probably get more out of it. So again, you're just looking for forward progress with really good posture. What I really like about this strategy is that you can really train it hard. So not only are the swimmers going to learn the skill, they're also going to develop the fitness that they need to sustain those skills, and you can really train them to sustain those skills and how to manage their skills as they get tired. So if swimmers aren't keeping up, if they're kicking slow, you just put a tempo trainer on them and it's going to make them keep up. So you can add duration or distance. You're just overloading it from an endurance perspective. You make them go for longer. You make them go for further. You can also add vertical resistance. So if you have them wear a weight belt or you have them hold a medicine ball or you have them hold any sort of weight that's going to force them to sink a little bit, they're going to have to kick harder to stay up. So not only are they going to be kicking backwards or forwards, they've got to kick down in order to stay up. And when you think about it, when they're horizontal, that'll help them go forward. You can also add drag socks, so they're going to specifically have resistance on the feet. That's going to make things a lot more difficult in terms of kicking effectively and kicking quickly. You can even add horizontal resistance. And so if you have a power tower or a power rack or something like that, you can put a really, really light resistance, and that'll make a really big difference in terms of what they feel, because they've got to work against that resistance to move either forward or backwards. You can also change the hand position to make it more difficult. If you have them keep the hands up, one, that's going to make them stay a lot more vertical, but two, they're going to have more weight out of the water, which is going to make it more difficult to stay afloat. And then if you have the arms in streamline, it's going to be even more extreme. The way I love to use this drill in particular is to pair it with underwaters and swimming, and that way they can do a little bit of vertical kicking. They can get a great feel for the skill. You can get the legs a little bit tired. You can train a little bit, and then you have them do some underwaters, and then you have them do some swimming when they do some underwaters. And that way they can start to transfer what they're figuring out during the vertical kicking into what they need to do when they swim. That's going to make it more demanding physically, and it's also going to make it more relevant and representative in terms of the skill aspect as well. So here's a simple set that shows you how you could use this strategy to improve their underwater kicking. Obviously, you could do it in a much more speed-based situation. You could do it in a much more race-based situation. You could do it in a much more endurance situation. It's totally up to you. It's just the kind of the big picture concept. So what they're going to do is they're going to go 3 rounds of some vertical kicking, some underwater kicking, and some swimming. So they'll start off with 8 times, 15 on, and then 25 off vertical dolphin kicking. The odds, they'll move forwards. The evens, they'll move backwards. And if you wanted to emphasize one of the 2 kicks, you could just do more repetitions of one of the 2. Then they'll go 4 times 12.5 underwater kick fast, working on their stomach and their back. So again, just kind of challenging the different kick positions. And then they're going to go 450 swim, descend 1 to 4 to a strong effort. They're always going to go 6 fast kicks each wall. Second round through, there's less time on the vertical kicking, so they can put more effort to it. They should be able to go at a higher intensity. And then they're going to go 415s fast underwater, a little bit more distance, see if they can hold the skills. Then they're going to go 350s, descend 1 to 3 to stronger effort. They're going to go 8 fast kicks, so more kicks here. And they want to go faster on the swims. In the last round, it's even shorter on the vertical kicking, so they should really be letting it rip there. And then 420s, so they got to hold it for a little bit longer. And they've got to go still odd stomach, evens on back. And they're going to go 250s, descend 1 to 2 to strongest effort, 10 fast kicks off of each wall. So a lot of practice here. They get to take what they're learning in the drill, what they're starting to figure out, what they're starting to feel, try to apply it underwater, and then try to apply it when they swim. And ultimately, we don't want to be great vertical dolphin kickers. We don't want to just be great underwater kickers. We got to be great underwater kickers while they're swimming. And so they're working on all 3 of those steps and trying to implement and integrate those skills along the way, which ultimately is going to lead to the results that we want. And best part of all is that they're training the kick. They're getting a lot of practice. They're going to develop the strength and the fitness they need and the skill they need all at the same time. So hope that was helpful. Hope it's insightful. Give it a shot. And as always, keep it simple.